If you're a Democrat and you're trying to figure out your micro-targeting, where can you pull the coalition together to beat a Mike Rogers, who, by the way, only lost by 19,000 votes against Alyssa Slotkin several years ago, the closest Senate race in Michigan history, you have got to be nervous about whether or not this guy can pull together that traditional coalition that Kieran is definitely familiar with as a Democrat to get him across the finish line. I'm not convinced that he is. There's a lot about this guy and his views that have not been revealed to Michiganders on a broad scale yet, and I promise you we're going to target him hard and heavy.
You talk about the world being in chaos. During the campaign, a leaked audio from his campaign came out, Abdul El-Sayed, in which he was worried about commenting on the death of the Ayatollah because he didn't want to offend his supporters. You've got a Democrat attorney general in Michigan who can't even go to her party's nominating convention because she says she doesn't feel safe because it's not safe for Jews to go to a political meeting. This is all wrapped up in this race. It's wrapped up in a lot of races around the country. It was wrapped up in these primaries here in New York City. And this whole demonization of AIPAC. AIPAC is made up of Jewish Americans. They're people who want to participate in politics. But at the end of the day, it seems to me that that is the motivating matter here. And the Democratic Party is making clear they want nothing to do with anybody who supports the fact that our ally Israel is fighting against these terrorists in the Middle East.
Tonight on CNN, Michigan Democrats have made their choice. Abdul El-Sayed is now the Democrat nominee for the U.S. Senate. But Scott Jennings said that his victory could create a much bigger problem for the Democrats going into the general election. Then Van Jones explains why AIPAC opposed El-Sayed, and the conversation takes an unexpected turn. Frowley.
Well, look, you never take anything for granted, but obviously he's much further to the left, much farther outside of the political mainstream. I mean, you talk about the world being in chaos. During the campaign, a leaked audio from his campaign came out, Abdul El-Sayed, in which he was worried about commenting on the death of the Ayatollah because he didn't want to offend his supporters. Yeah, the world is in chaos, and this guy can't figure out what side of the ball he's on. And so I think Republicans look forward to running against this because there won't be a brighter line than between Abdul El-Sayed and Mike Rogers.
And that's just the beginning.
Scott Jennings, your response to what Senator Sanders had to say?
Well, I mean, right at the end, he ultimately said, yes, I want people like Hassan Piker in my political party.
Thank you all very much for joining me. And I want to discuss today the extraordinary election that took place in Michigan yesterday. And let me begin by congratulating Will Lawrence, Donovan McKinney for their great congressional victories, and of course, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed.
We're a Big Tent. He wants people in the party that say America deserved 9/11. He wants people in his party that are out there idealizing Chairman Mao and the like. I mean, this is not something I would be embracing if I were trying to build a political party that could appeal to, mainstream Americans. I think they're going to deeply regret these associations and this continued demonization of AIPAC. AIPAC is Jewish Americans who are choosing to participate in politics. And let's be honest, they're just using it as a euphemism to say the Jews. I mean, that's what they're doing. And I think
Senator Sanders is Jewish.
Okay, that doesn't absolve him of demonizing other Americans who simply want to participate in American politics.
The reason why I showed you that clip, and I think that clip is important, is because what Bernie Sanders and El-Sayed is representing is going to have serious consequences when it comes down to AIPAC. That's what I don't think that the Democrats understand. The Socialist Party doesn't understand that when it comes down to their values and what they represent, no one's going to really stand up for us not supporting our allies. Now, whether you agree with him or not, that's the point he was making, and it's setting everything up for what Van Jones is about to say in our next video. It'll surprise you.
Well, I think Republicans, Republican operatives have viewed this very clearly for months now. Abdul El-Sayed is clearly going to win. We've known it for a long time. I think a lot of Michigan Democrats fooled themselves into believing they had a chance to beat him, but he clearly had.
Okay, by the way, he has won already. Probably.
The momentum for months and months and months. I don't know how you can talk about this race, though, without talking about the continuance of this issue of Israel and how Jewish people are being treated in this country and abroad right now. I mean, you've got a Democrat attorney general in Michigan, Nussel, who can't even go to her party's nominating convention because she says she doesn't feel safe because it's not safe for Jews to go to a political meeting. This is all wrapped up in this race. It's wrapped up in a lot of races around the country. It was wrapped up in these primaries here in New York City. And this whole demonization of AIPAC. AIPAC is made up of Jewish Americans. They're people who want to participate in politics. And so, yes, there are other issues being discussed. Yes, there's candidate qualities. Yes, there's tactics. But at the end of the day, it seems to me that that is the motivating matter here. And the Democratic Party is making clear they want nothing to do with anybody who supports the fact that our ally Israel is fighting against these terrorists in the Middle East.
Why is AIPAC going after this guy? That would be the question. They're spending, what you said, $30 million? That's a lot of money. Is it because he's a Muslim guy? Is it because he's a hateful guy? It turns out his position is for a full military embargo of the state of Israel. Now hold on a second. A full military embargo. Now listen, he says he wants to condition aid. That's reasonable, defensible. Most Democrats feel that way at this point after Gaza. If he says no subsidies, that's defensible. He says we can't even sell weapons to Israel, even if they're defensive.
I'm opposed to unconditional military aid for any country. That is Israel, yes, but that's also Egypt, where my family immigrated from. That's Pakistan, that's Saudi Arabia, that's UAE. And that's not because of a focus on what's happening anywhere except for a focus on what's happening here. We've got communities in my state where the median income is $14,000, and I believe they have a right to their tax dollars. I also believe in international law and upholding international law, and there are Leahy laws against dealing arms to countries who are engaged in human rights abuses, and I don't want to fund a foreign military that does genocide, apartheid, or has taken us to a war we don't need to fight.
Some people might hear that and say, well, does he support, funding defensive systems like the Iron Dome, in Israel?
I don't believe that there's really a difference between offensive or defensive weapons, and I also don't believe it's my responsibility to buy defensive weapons for a foreign government.
Israel, even if they're defensive. So if this guy, so why is AIPAC so mad? This guy is saying that the United States government can't even sell defensive weapons to Israel, which would make Israel completely defenseless. Now that would be a reason for a group of people who cares about Israelis to say, this is not our guy.
So and now you can see why CNN spent so much time on this. Scott Jennings says this issue could define the race. Van Jones explains why groups like AIPAC are spending heavily in opposition. And Abdul El-Sayed lays out his own position in his own words, whether voters agree with him or disagree with him. This exchange is probably going to be replayed a lot between now and Election Day. Okay, one thing for sure, I did not expect for Scott Jennings and Van Jones to come to the same conclusion that this is a consequence instead of a victory for the Democrats. When Scott Jennings and Van Jones spend more time explaining the political consequences than arguing with each other, then you stumbled onto one of the biggest stories in the race. What do you think? Do you think that Abdul El-Sayed is going to help the Democrats in the general election? Or do you think that it opened the doors for the Republicans? Let me know in the comment section down below. And until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can keep bringing you debates like this on The Jay Ravato Show.